So today we're going to be going over standard form, which is a way of writing really big numbers and really small numbers without all of the zeros. In general, when we're done with the number, we want it to look like some number, a, times 10 to a power. We're just going to put for k, where a needs to be bigger than 1 but less than 10, and then k has to be an integer. Now what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you the process of how it happens, and then I'm going to stop and tell you why. So in general, we're going to start off with what to do when we have really big numbers. So in general, let's start off with, we're going to do with this number 32,400,000. I'm going to start off by just writing it down. So 32. Now, the goal is to get the number out in front to be greater than 1 but less than 10. So if I'm looking at this number here, if I put the decimal behind all of the numbers, then I'm going to have 324, which is going to be bigger than 10 for sure. If I put it here, then I'm going to have 32. If I put it here, I'll have 3.24, which is less than 10. So here's where I want to put my decimal. Now, I've got to figure out how many places did I move my decimal. So originally in the number, your decimal is going to be at the very end, right? For 32 million. And I've got to figure out how many times did I move that decimal. So I moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so writing this in the form of a times 10 to the k, I'm just going to leave spaces here. So a, we're going to leave a space for, times 10 to some power. So the number that I'm left with without the zeros is always going to be my a, so 3.24, and then the number of movements is going to be my k, so 7. So now that number is in standard form. Let's do another one. So I'm going to rewrite 400,000. Oops. And I want to figure out how many times do I have to move it. So the decimal will start here, and I have to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So making this in the form of some number times 10 to a power, I would have 4.0 times 10 to the 5th. All right, last one. I would have 120. So this one's not quite as big of a number, but you can still put it into standard form. I'm going to need to move this in order to make my first number 1, 2 times. So if I'm writing it, then it's going to be 1.2 times 10 to the 2. Okay, so that's the basic idea. Now let's talk about why this works. So I'm actually going to start with this first little one down here because it's the easiest one. I didn't change the value of this number at all. 1.2 times 10 squared is the exact same thing as 120. And so what we did was we said that 120 is equal to 1.2 times 100. Now, if you don't believe that, we can say, well, 100 is 10 times 10. And if you take 1.2 times 10, you would get 12, and then we do times the other one, 10, and we get 120, and we get back our number. So the idea is on each one of these, I'm not changing the value, but every time I multiply by 10, I'm moving the decimal over 1. So if I go up here and I have 400,000, that's the same thing as if I had 4 times 100,000. Right? And then this 100,000 I could break into 10 times 10,000, and so on and so forth. 10 times 10 times 1,000. And what's going to happen is each time I'm breaking this down into tens, I'm moving this decimal over in this last number. So I think that should be pretty clear. I'm just going to rewrite this as 4 times 10 times 10 times 10. So that's the basic idea behind it. I could also rewrite this one as 3.24 times 10 7 times, and if you want to, you can go ahead and multiply that out so that you can see it's true. Okay, that's going to be all for this video. In the next one, we'll go over what to do to get small numbers in standard form. So if you want to look at that, you can go ahead and look.